Faces of Death, 1978, one of the first viral videos without there being an internet. People were whispering about this, banned in 47 countries. First of all, I didn't even know there were 47 countries at the age that I had heard about, like, Faces of Death.
I thought it was smart that if they're going to reinvent a franchise, I hadn't seen one done like this before. This is where they took the core concept, but they had footage from the original film and it found a way to kind of breathe new life into it.
I think going to Shudder and Shudder buying this was actually a really good idea. I think they could keep pumping out sequels. They could even do VHS Faces of Death freaking mashup. I mean, they could do what they want because they own both franchises.
Hello, friends and listeners. You have a brand new episode of Watch Skip Plus. We want to be your go-to source for insightful and pop-cultured movie reviews. My name is Jose, also known as Cupcake. I'm joined 2 squares over, maybe this way or that way, by my co-host Mike, the WillDaBeast, and you are staring at the beautiful mug of our guest, Brian of Lucky Comics or Lucky Comics. Brian has been on as a guest before. I think Sick, written by Kevin Williamson and John Hyams, another superhero movie, Samaritan, I think,
yes.
Hellraiser. So he definitely loves the genre, and he is back. Brian, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it. It's always a good time. And this is a fun film that we get to discuss. I'm glad to be back.
Do you want to just really quickly let the friends and listeners know about Lucky Comics, which I know is a passion project of yours?
Yeah, so it's Lucky Finds, but it's pretty much my side hustle. Like I'm a horror fan and a comic fan first. So and I love when they have like crossovers. So like right now there's a issue of Creepshow that just came out.
Oh, cool.
And it's got a great homage cover for ASM 15.
That's great.
So yeah, I've always loved comics, always loved horror comics in general. So yeah, it's just what I do basically is I buy and sell comics, I buy collections and things like that, and it funds my hobby. If your hobby pays for itself, then you don't got nothing to worry about. So yeah, and I get to, just like we meet horror fans talking about horror movies and all that, meet comic fans and like-minded, people that grew up with the stuff. That's where it really is, or what it's really about for me, meeting other people that like comics, getting comics that they want into their hands that they've been looking for. The name Lucky Finds is pretty much because I end up getting lucky finds where I'll find books or run into people who have books that want to like offload their collections. And then I'm able to get the books into people's hands that are like looking for stuff. So it's just, It's a win-win all the way around. So
and you're on all the social medias and stuff like that. That's where they can find you.
Yeah. Yep. If you could just go on Instagram is, Lucky Finds _ comics. You'll find me on there. I post stuff all the time for the different books that I pick up and things like that. I'm easily findable.
Brian and I did a Tough Mudder, which seems like 10 years ago. I don't think we'd be in any state to actually do it now.
We're going to get back there.
We are totally going to get back there. Speaking of which, getting back there, Brian, do you want to tell the friends and listeners what we're reviewing this week?
This week we are reviewing the reimagining of Faces of Death.
Yes, I love that you said the reimagining. So I think we're all pretty much the same age, but Faces of Death, 1978. That's the original from Gorgon Video. It was one of the first, as the film says, viral videos without there being an internet. And so I remember as a young kid that like people were whispering about this. Have you heard of Faces of Death? Like it's banned in 47 countries. First of all, I didn't even know there were 47 countries at the age that I had heard about like, Faces of Death, right? So this is a notorious Mondo horror film directed by Conan Lee Killer. Sounds like Le Killer, right? These are obviously pseudonyms. It's presented as like a faux documentary. There's a pathologist pretentious, Francis B. Gross, ridiculous. And he is talking about all of the quote unquote faces of death. Now, interestingly enough, I rewatched the film because I remember watching it as a kid and just being like, oh my God, what am I seeing? Like my young mind was short circuiting watching all of this. But I rewatched it recently and it's kind of unwatchable, but what surprised me the most about the original Faces of Death is that there's certainly a lot of animal killing and animal slaughter, and then it even goes weirdly into like the supernatural. I think at one point a woman is like being possessed or something like that, and then it ends on a very strange like eco message, like save the world, don't litter, don't pollute. And then this woman has a baby and the guy is like, oh, it's like a circle, life and death. The end is the beginning is the end. I'm like, this is really weird, especially considering that it was kind of faked. Like ostensibly there is some real footage here, real footage of dead bodies,
animals mainly,
animals being killed. Although some of the animal deaths have been faked, but
the monkey death is fake, right?
The monkey death is fake. The crocodile attack is fake. The bear attack is certainly fake. But Brian, what's your experience with the original Faces of Death?
So, Faces of Death was one of the videotapes that like everybody sought out in our generation, especially horror fans. It was like a rite of passage videotape. My second job I ever had was at a video store. So we went through Faces of Death 1 through 6. I think they got up to 6. We went through Traces of Death when that came out, and that actually had real footage in it. That was one of the ones that had the I think it was the Bud Spencer where he was on the news, the suicide. So those were more hardcore. In my mind was like, you got to see this because we're watching something that we shouldn't be watching. So that and don't tell your parents that you're renting this, and like so that's pretty much what it was. But and at the time everybody thought 99% of it was real. And then you come to find out that a lot of it was faked. But I think there was the one the airline crash that was on there. That happened from like right before they released the film. Interesting enough, that occurred, and they were like scrambling to get the news footage to put that in. And I think it was the Japanese market, because they were huge backers for the film, that they wanted the director to put it out, was like, you've got to add like more stuff. We need this death documentary. So
those crazy Asians.
The Japanese,
Mike, I remember my brother being like, it's a snuff film. I'm like, what the hell is a snuff film? But Mike, your experience with the original Faces of Death.
So I didn't really see it until I was much older, when I was in my 20s. I remember seeing the video and I remember hearing the stories of it. My mother was really like, no, you don't need to see that. My mother had like friends who were killed by serial killer Ted Bundy, so she was really sensitive about certain things. And like,
I learned more and more about my co-host each
seeing
episode.
death too. Well, I mean, look into Ted Bundy and his reign in terror in Utah. So there's some folks in there that have affected some of my family. But it was all about being prepared because of the fear of Ted Bundy. So this kind of stuff, Faces of Death, was a big no-no in my family. And she made it sound like this is just the most horrific stuff ever put on film. It's all real death and murder and carnage and animals getting slaughtered. And I'm just like, I will never watch it. And it wasn't until I was going through a divorce in my 20s when I was like, oh, fuck it, I'll watch anything. And I watched it and I was like, this is some shit. I was way too old. By the time I watched it, I was like, this is even, what was Cannibal Holocaust, which was also painted as a faux documentary. I watched that around the same time, which I thought it knew what it was doing a little bit better. I enjoyed that more than I enjoyed Faces of Death. And I've never gone on to any of the others. I've seen some of the footage from Traces of Death in the old AOL chat days when people would send you that little screenshot footage of some of that stuff. My mother was always like, there's a difference between horror and exploitation. And I never really dove into it till I was so old that it was like, okay, this isn't as effective anymore. You know what I mean? You see it more
It's
for
funny.
the art form of it and the different colors and shades of blood and the way that they film, and just that's what makes it
Is
fun
there
now.
an art form? That guy's hospital where he's doing like his
it's
surgeries. It's somebody's apartment hallway. I'm like,
Yeah.
that is not a hospital, but it's funny
It was
you
the
mentioned
70s.
Yeah, I know. 70s, right? It's funny you mention exploitation because the makers of this are on record as saying that, like, well, we wanted this to feel real and not exploitative at all. And it's like, really? Really, sirs? Okay. Anyway, all right. So here we go. This is a reimagining. Mike tipped me off to this. I didn't realize this. This was filmed in 2023, and you will actually see the fact that, like, the serial killer's username is FOD 2024. And so that's a tip off that this was supposed to have been released in 2024. Legendary is behind this. I don't know because I think Legendary like maybe went kind of bankrupt or did some weird stuff. I don't know. Maybe that's why it didn't get released. But IFC, Independent Film Company, and Shudder purchased this. And then, now it's out. Our directors and writers it's a duo. And it's interesting, on IMDb, it says that only the man has directed this, but I think in the final print you get two. So Daniel Goldhaber and Issa Mazzei. Let's start with Goldhaber. He's dipped into the genre with 2018's Cam, which is a Netflix-produced film and distributed. I have not seen that, but Mazzei helped to co-write it. That's based on her memoir, Cam Girl, where she actually was a cam girl for some time. Now, that screenplay would net her best screenplay at 2018's Fantasia Fest, and then the two of them would go on to produce, write, co-direct How to Blow Up a Pipeline from 2022. Did any of you see this? It's a great movie. Very tense, very kind of unnerving. Mike, did you ever get to see How to Blow Up a Pipeline?
No, but I saw Cam.
Okay. How was Cam?
Which I liked it. I feel very similar to how I feel about this. They're very similar films in the way that they look at exploitation and the way, the things that people do for either fame or fortune or money. So
Or seeking
I think they
attention.
definitely, or seeking attention. I think they definitely have these two definitely have an idea of what they believe should or shouldn't be being used, like cameras should or shouldn't be being used for certain things. And it's almost like there's kind of like saying this exploitation shit isn't good. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
And you kind of get hit
Pretty
with
much.
that message in both films.
Brian, any experience with their past work, Cam or How to Blow Up a Pipeline?
No, I remember seeing the trailer for Cam, and then it just kind of like got lost in the shuffle.
Got lost in your ever-expanding playlist.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the queue just never ends. It wraps around the world like 3 times at this point.
Sure.
It's crazy.
It's a never-ending circle like the Faces of Death.
No, I'm intrigued about the How to Blow Up a Pipeline, though. Unfortunately, I didn't see either one.
Okay, got it. Our DP is Isaac Bowman. He should sound familiar. He lensed They Will Kill You. So obviously we love Isaac Bowman and his ability to put together great visuals. Our music is by Gavin Brivik. He's worked with them before. He scored Cam and How to Blow Up a Pipeline. Surprise. Also 2021's Wild Indian. Our cast. So this is an interesting cast. First of all, let me just start with this. How do you pronounce Mr. Montgomery's name?
I don't know.
Dacre?
So I think it's Dacre, Dacre, but I always have been saying Daiquiri, like the daiquiri
Strawberry
drink.
Montgomery.
Right, yeah, exactly. So Dacre Montgomery, he is glimpsed in the trailers. He and Barbie Ferreira, I'll get to her later, are probably the most recognizable actors here.
Mm-hmm.
Montgomery is an Australian. He's actually Kiwi, descended on his father's side, but we know him from Stranger Things, where he, obviously touched mainstream zeitgeist fame. Also was in the reboot of the Power Rangers, which I love that movie. It's probably longer than it needs to be, but he's really good in it. He recently has been making a break for the indies. I think he's trying to shed that whole, Stranger Things kind of thing. So Gus Van Sant's Dead Man's Wire opposite Bill Skarsgård. And then he is also directing a film called The Engagement Party. So, every actor is like, I really want to direct. And so he's doing it. Any thoughts on Mr. Montgomery?
I only know the character in Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
Yeah, Eddie used to do a really cool cosplay. That's the only thing I really know. And I've looked back and I think I've recognized his face in a few things. I think, without showing my cards, he's really quite good in this. And I'd like to see what else he does.
Oh, yeah. Brian, thoughts on Mr. Montgomery?
Yeah, same thing with Mike. I was seeing him from Stranger Things. And initially I didn't realize this was him. Just because he just looks so like cleaned up compared to Stranger Things, where he was kind of like the Midwestern, rough and tough with the mullet and everything.
With the mullet and everything, yeah, exactly.
So this
slightly
way, like,
abusive.
Yeah, he almost looked like a younger Jared Leto in this a little bit, but like beefier. Yeah. The good thing about it is because it didn't hit me right away that was him. It let me see him in the role, not see him as the person, see the role. Yeah. So it was totally, it was nice. But again, without playing all of our cards, I think he did a good job at this. So.
Our lead is Barbie Ferreira. Many will know her from Euphoria. Shout out to New Jersey. She's from Maywood. She went to Hackensack High. Yeah. Recently was in House of Spoils with Ariana DeBose. It kind of looked like a weird The Menu meets a horror film, so I haven't quite seen that. Ferreira also identifies as queer, which I think dovetails with a lot of her character going on here. I really loved her in Euphoria. I just didn't like the sort of predictable plus-size girl has self-esteem issues, becomes a cam girl. Like, I was just like, okay, show me something different, but she's really strong in that. Brian, have you seen Euphoria? Do you know any of Miss Ferreira's work?
No, that is a blind spot in my thing. And I keep getting, I get yelled at constantly. Like, you got to go watch Euphoria, so I think Sandy and I are going to watch that, probably over the summer. We'll just start binging it because, it looks
just warning, that first season, like, there's a lot of dicks. So that's how I got roped into it. They were like, Jose, there's all these dicks in Euphoria. You should start watching it. I'm like, okay. Yeah. Mike, any thoughts on Barbie?
I've just seen her in Unpregnant and in Nope, which she's good in both of those.
Yeah, in Nope.
So, So, and then she popped up in a show called Divorce that I watched. Really pretty good comedy on HBO Max too. So yeah, I've seen her and stuff, and I think she's pretty good. I don't think she's as good as the other lead that we talked about. I think she's maybe a little miscast here, but we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, I have some thoughts about that. Also in the cast, we have Josie Totah. I did not realize this. She is a transgender actor. She came out in 2018, started acting as a male on Disney shows, the 6th season of Glee, probably best known for 2016's Other People, which was a big Sundance hit. In fact, Variety named her one of Sundance's breakout stars. Also in this is Jermaine Fowler, stand-up comedian. I love this guy. He was on a TV show called Superior Donuts. He was also in Sting, which did you guys see Sting about the pet spider?
Yes.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, he's a local guy, grew up in DC, went to Northwest High in Hyattsville. And then 2 other shout outs, and then we're going to get to our spoiler-free thoughts on this because I'm really interested to hear what you guys think about this film. Also in the cast is Charli XCX, and I'm just going to say this. Please stop trying to make her happen. I feel like she just gets like shoved in my fucking face.
Yes.
She's in overcompensating. She had that movie The Moment. She was in something else. Everywhere I turn, Charli XCX is there, and I'm like, I can't. I can't. I don't know.
4 movies at Sundance. She was in 4 films at Sundance.
Yeah.
I only saw 3 of them, and they weren't big roles, but she just keeps popping up and miscast and everything. Again, why was she here?
I don't know. And here's the other thing. To put a star
into this thing, I mean, pointless.
Here's the other thing. I will say this. I will say 2 things about her, and then I'll move on. But like, 1, I want her agent. Her agent is working the shit out of like her stuff, right? And then 2, to quote Buffy the Vampire Slayer, she had all those movies, and where is she now? Hello. Anyway, hey, Brian, do you have any thoughts on the rest of the cast or even Charli XCX, who's having a moment
I have zero
now?
thoughts on Charli XCX.
Thank you.
Got it.
But, all right, so you're saying she's everywhere. If you told me who, like, you named her, I would have been like, who the hell is that? I'm going to be the old guy in the room.
You don't know who she is.
She's just not on my radar whatsoever. But from what you're saying, she is the Roman Reigns of the mid 2010s.
Yeah.
They just tried to shove them down everybody's throat. Nobody wanted them.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
That's
or even like
and they do that with stars, like
Yeah,
they
she's
do.
a
I mean,
pop star, right? She's a hyper pop star.
Well, I wouldn't say pop star. It's more like it's like rap. It's like hybrid kind of
they
stuff.
call it
Okay.
hyper pop is the style of music she makes.
But this just calls to mind. Remember when they were trying to make Rihanna an actress? She was in Battleship and she was in all those other films. And I'm like, maybe not.
Yeah, it's just not
and then the last person I'm going to talk about is producer Don Murphy. He is one of my heroes. Weird connection. I bought his used Laserdisc of Basic Instinct, folks. I'm telling you, I did. And he had a Sony Pictures email on eBay. And I was like, are you the Don Murphy that, and he's like, yes, it's me. Do you want to buy my shit? But anyway, straight out of film grad school, he and Jane Hampshire produced Natural Born Killers. What an amazing project, right? They even wrote a book about it. Very crazy stuff. But he is behind the Transformers franchise, all of the Transformer films. He's adapted the comic book movies, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, From Hell, Shoot 'em Up. He EP'd Splice and Gemini Man. He has been trying to get Astro Boy on the screen, but I know there was an animated film, but he's a huge Astro Boy guy, but he's a producer here. I wish him all the success on this because, well, I'll get to my spoiler-free thoughts, but let's start with our guest, Brian. What did you think of this reimagining? And I think that's a really good word, but I'm also going to throw in the M word, meta, reimagining of this film. What are your spoiler-free thoughts on Faces of Death?
I thought it was smart that if they're going to reinvent a franchise, I hadn't seen one done like this before. I know they would use a name, but it would have no connection to the original. They would do a straight up remake, or they would do something in the middle where they would take the best parts and then kind of just crap all over the rest of it. This is where they took the core concept, but they had footage from the original film in it. And I guess that's not a spoiler. You'd see it in the trailer. And I thought it was interesting that, they found a way to kind of breathe new life into it. And I enjoyed that for what it was. Like, that hooked me from the beginning. Because I was, at first, when I heard just the name, I'm like, there's no way. What are they going to do? Like, do more fake death scenes and put it in a theater? That doesn't make any sense. Nobody's going to watch that because you can go online and watch whatever you want, and there's plenty of real stuff that we didn't have access to when we were, younger. So that hooked me. And then the actual setup, I thought was done well. So again, you have someone who's flagging content, and again, that's I was like, okay, they're really trying to say something that maybe not always successfully. I think sometimes it's a little heavy-handed, but overall it was a nice surprise. I did like the killer. I did like his look. I did like motivations we'll talk about later on. I think there was some meat left on the bone that they could have went into. But all in all, I think it was good setup. One caveat with that is that for a film called Faces of Death, a little bit more death. But that's just the old school way.
Yes.
Because you're reimagining a film that literally had death from point A to point Z in it. So that's what I was expecting. But that being said, it did have more story than I was going to give it credit for.
Sure.
So overall, I think without spoiling anything, it's a enjoyable film for me to go out and see in the theater. I'm glad that I did, because I think this could have been dropped on streaming really easily. It could have just been put straight to Shudder. So I'm glad that they actually gave it a theatrical chance. Hopefully they can replicate some of the success, because I think it's a decent film, and I think it's, you know, it's got some good stuff to say. So
yeah, that actually was going to be my follow up of, you know, in this day and age of like film criticism. I've done it. We've done it on this show where we've said, I think I would have enjoyed this if it was a streamer versus going to the theater. But do you think that this escapes the sort of trappings of predictable Shudder fare?
It definitely runs the line of it. Because it feels similar to a lot of stuff that they dropped on stream, but also there's some stuff that dropped on Shudder that I thought should have gotten at least a limited theatrical release. They bury some of their gems, which I don't understand. They'll bury a gem on there, and I'm like, what did you do? Or it'll be such a small window for the theatrical release just to say it was a theatrical release. So
1 week usually, and they base it off of, like, they're really particular. Like, they'll play a theater over and over if they're seeing people go. And that's what I confirmed. I went to the early access screening. It was so popular that they ended up filling a full day worth of screenings when they were only going to do it at 10:30 at night. And I think that's smart. They did that with the Late Night with the Devil, which quickly grew to being a big hit. And a couple of their films, I mean, Good Boy from the fall also did the same thing, rode out for like 4 weeks. So some of their releases are going to go further at certain markets than others.
Yeah, just no more shit-a-marink, okay?
That was a big hit, too, for them. Now, if it wasn't, as much as you hated that, if it wasn't for that being a hit, they wouldn't have gotten the money to continue to kind of do what they're doing. So
I hate to say that's this generation's Blair Witch. You know, this cycle's Blair Witch. And I hate to make that comparison, but think of it, it's just that's what it is. It's like, or paranormal activity. It's just, they come in waves.
Shrinky Madoo, whatever. So stupid. Anyway, I'm gonna go next with my spoiler-free thoughts. So, color me surprised. This is the way I think that you should reimagine a film or even remake a film. We talk about all the time about how, why would you remake a successful film, even if it's just for younger audiences, right? But to remake something underground like this, I was like, okay, great, right? And actually, if you think about it, the idea or the concept of the original Faces of Death, the faces of death, where you see death everywhere, accidents, animals, all of this, it actually lends itself to a franchise. So I will just say that this one is ostensibly about a serial killer, but we could get a supernatural one. We could get a disaster movie next time with horror overtones. So the concept is actually very rife for potential. I will say I love the way that they did this in terms of, you know, the original Faces of Death and then how that dovetails into the actual plot itself. We'll talk about that in the spoiler section. I love how they updated this. She is a content moderator. She's looking at clips and there's sort of like the whole like, wait a minute, do I approve this? Do I not? Knowing full well, I mean, listen, full disclosure, there are some Twitter accounts that I watch that are like crazy fist fights and then like car accidents where I'm pretty sure people are mashed up and dead or you see bodies flying. You can access everything on the internet now. And I love that this film kind of shows that and gives us kind of an intense like thriller over it. For the most part, while I liked the idea, the beginning of it, where they were going, I loved Ferrara's performance. I love that, you know, I'm going to say it, a plus size girl. I love that she's our final girl. I dig it. I loved her performance in this. I would like to see more from her because they don't really, unlike Euphoria, they don't really play on her size here. She's just a girl doing her thing, which I loved. I thought that was great. But unfortunately for me, although I liked the movie, it was kind of predictable. I'm like, okay, that's the killer. This is where they're going. We're all ahead of the writers. But that last act, it was so brutal and so like bloody and gross and out there that I was like, okay, they did it. They capped it off right. So yeah, it's a watch for me. I wish it would get more theatrical because I think it is kind of ballsy and bracing and out there. So I'd love to see more, but this apparently was filmed in New Orleans. All I have to say is she lives in this crazy shitty apartment, and I guess that goes with the fact that her character has some history with social media, but there's no way I would live in that fucking apartment. I'm sorry, I don't care. Even though her gay roommate
building.
What's that? I know, exactly.
It just looked like an abandoned building.
It's scary. Even though her, gay roommate is like an artist or something. No, I'm not living there. Sorry. Mike, your spoiler-free thoughts.
Well, first off, I'm going to say I think going to Shudder and Shudder buying this was actually a really good idea. I think they could turn this into what they did with the VHS franchise. I think they could keep pumping out sequels. They could even do VHS Faces of Death freaking mashup. I mean, they could do what they want because they own both franchises. So, and Creepshow as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of fun stuff that they can do, and I'm kind of all about them owning this. So I'm cool with that. I do like cat and mouse serial killer films, but between this and Psycho Killer, maybe we need to go back to quality third act. There's a definite third act issue here.
Oh, you didn't like the third act?
Oh, I don't like when they added the bumbling cops that are just stupid as shit. I know it's like homaging to 1970s bad cops being stupid and bumbling as hell, but there's no way that she would have, we'll go into spoilers more, but there's a lot of decisions made in the end that bothered me a lot. Yeah,
I get it. I was doing it, Scooter and I were doing it ourselves. It became like a Q&A session. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Why would
Oh, yeah.
And at times this feels like it's almost like forgetting that it's a Faces of Death movie, and it's just trying to be Longlegs meets Silence of the Lambs meets Saw meets Seven, all these type of cat and mouse serial killer movies, even Copycat, big time, huge. So for me, this became so much of an homage of so many things, which I'm usually all about. A.K. Dolly, I liked. This was more of a mixed bag for me. Again, I don't have a huge relationship with the film, like the film series itself, so that didn't catch me enough. I did like the concept and ideas, but even being from 2024, only 2 years later, I don't know, it felt really dated to me, almost like it was some kind of version of Vine or something between Vine and Instagram.
Snapchat or something.
Yeah,
Kino.
Which is weird. Again, I don't know if that was a wink to Kino Lorber. I don't know. There was a whole bunch of wink winks, which I get that was probably fun for them to write in paper. But as a horror fan, it just felt like they were just throwing everything but the kitchen sink at us. So I'm the dissenting voice here. I'm going to give this a slight skip, maybe wait for Shudder for it. I didn't think it, I think as a whole film, the more I thought about it afterwards, I was like, it didn't quite gel. A lot of that last act just did not feel believable at all to me. Some of the gore's great. There is a couple scenes, but yeah, there could have been a lot more deaths than what we got on screen. I did like the lead killer, but there's at times when he's totally being, what's his name? Buffalo Bill. Even the way he's like kind of creeping around. He puts his mask on. Lots of homage to lots of serial killer movies, which kind of is overkill for me. So yeah, again, wait for Shudder.
Boo! Boo! So, you know what? I wrestled with that, Mike. You talked about the fact that it's like predictable, because after the beginning and once the cat and mouse starts, I'm like, okay, it's Saw, but I really bought into that like last third act. I really, really kind of dug it.
Yeah, it was a mess to me. And I know our buddy John Horgan feels the same way too. He thought the third act was messy. And it is kind of messy, but you can ignore it if you're really into what's going on. Unfortunately, I kind of lost it once we seen where our killer lived and got more into him. I don't know. I thought there was a lot of decisions that we'll definitely dive into the spoiler section where I feel like it kind of went off the rails.
Yeah. I love when he's like, zigzag. Anyway, all right. Yeah. So definitely come back for our spoilered discussion. So as you know, this is a spoiler free. We drop those on Friday, and then Sunday we give you the spoiler discussion. Come back, because I think there's going to be some things to discuss, if not only to just rag on the tropes, but it's an interesting reimagining. So if you love us, folks, you'll certainly love our Podfathers, The Gentleman's Guide to Midnight Cinema and Not a Bomb, and the OG's The Night of the Living podcast. Additionally, you would love our YouTube brothers, the two Johns, and Now for Something a Little Bit Different, as well as Wild Dream Twitch, which is the streaming YouTube platform for Wild Dream Podcasts, and of course Death by DVD, and then Raiders of the Podcast. We love those guys. Need to have them back on. Backlook Cinema Podcast with Zoe, Caliber 9 from Outer Space, Feminine Critique, Talk Without Rhythm with Garo. Brian, thank you so much for guesting. It was nice to have you back.
Thanks for having me back. It's a pleasure every time, guys.
Yes, we love it.
And Lucky Find Comics, folks, source it out. I remember there was that one time you found like boxes and boxes of just treasures. It's pretty cool. That was your lucky find. So
yes, it was.
Yep. And Mike, parting thoughts.
Yep. Just get out there to the theaters as always. Keep supporting, going to whether it's live theater, film, even symphony, whatever's your thing, or live music. I'm getting ready to go see some fun bands as it gets warmer. So yes, go out and enjoy performance with other people.
Yes. And watch what you see on the internet and don't park near vans, as Sigourney Weaver says in Copycat. As always, folks, be kind, be open, be vulnerable. That's where the art is. We'll see you on the other side. Bye.